Hello, everyone. I am giving this recorded lecture video to fill up the parts that we couldn't go through in detail in some of our lecture slides, especially for the week 10 lecture slide. So I'm recording this video to give the lecture for the week 10 about the topic ASEAN between the great powers. You guys can also learn by reading the PowerPoint slides as a self-study. In addition, I am giving this recorded lecture to assist in your study for this week 10 chapter for more understanding. So I hope it can be helpful to you. So some of the students didn't come to attend the class today, and some left a bit early. So to catch up with all the students understanding of the our course syllabus, where we have already reached to align all. So today we have already reached to the lecture about the ASEAN consensus and the ASEAN in the Southeast Asia. We have finished half of the this lecture slides. Next week we will continue from the this ASEAN consensus part from the middle part of the our lecture slides. So this recorded video will be to cover week 10's lecture of ASEAN between the great powers. So let's start. So ASEAN between the great power, the content will be about we'll be learning about changing power dynamics in the region, in the Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific region. We will learn about the decline of U.S. economic influence in the region and the recent China's initiative in the Southeast Asia region, and also recent U.S. initiative competing with the Chinese, and also potential problems for the ASEAN between the great competition of the great power countries, so on. So first, the changing power dynamics in the Southeast Asia. So the overall regional order in the Asia Pacific is in the transition, as you all know. Many things are changing. Wars breaking out. Civil wars are also breaking out in many parts of the world. Over the last 50 years, the order in the East Asia has been maintained through the American hegemonic leadership. The regional order has been organized around the American-led economic and the security hierarchical relationship. About 50 years ago, China was not considered a great power. They have many economic, political, social problems in the China under the Mao Zedong leadership. The United States was both the leading security provider in the region and also leading source of the trade and investment throughout the Cold War period and much of the 1990s for the Southeast Asia region. United States remains a leading hegemonic power in the Asia. That hegemonic leadership is eroding and fragmenting, meaning U.S. presence is weakening in the Southeast Asia or the Asia Pacific region. Why? Because China is a rising state. We already mentioned that in the class quite several times. China is a rising state that will increasingly have the capacities or the capabilities for the hegemonic leadership at least in the East Asia part of the world, eastern part of the world. China's dream is not limited only to the East Asia. China want to influence politically, economically to the Middle East, to the Africa, to the Latin American country. They also want to have a strong trade relation with the European countries, or to surpass the United States as a current top superpower country in the world. China has some dream, we just call it dream, to surpass the United States, and they replace the role of United States as the world's dominant superpower, so on. So the power transition is underway. This power transition underway creates the uncertainties and the securities across the Asia-Pacific region and also throughout the world. So although the US-led security order is still largely in place, do not get mistaken, US is still the #1 superpower. The rise of China is causing economic shift within the region. Over the last 2 decades, most of the countries in the region that previously had the United States as their leading trade partner now have China as their leading trade partners. So such changes happen in the past several decades due to the rise of China. And China has been the leading economic power in the Southeast Asia. Countries in the ASEAN wish to benefit from the China's rise too. So, but what led to the US losing economic influence in the region? We have to study about that. So we have to study US policy towards the ASEAN in the 1990s. After the end of the Cold War, the Southeast Asia was a secondary area of concern for the United States. In the view of the United States, Southeast Asia is not an area of main interest for them, not that important for them. It was viewed basically in the context of America's interest in maintaining freedom of navigation along the world's most used trade routes, especially the Malacca Strait and so on in the South China Sea. Their concern is only limited to that, and also about Taiwan issue. The first Bush administration, George H.W. Bush, the United States shifted its focus in the Southeast Asia from the security to the economic issues, particularly promoting of the free trade. So, United States, after the Cold War period, even when they start to give some attention to the Southeast Asia, United States wanted to start their focus in Southeast Asia by changing the economic dimension. They want to do economic reform, trade reform, according to their ideology, particularly promoting the free trade, of course, part of the capitalist system. In addition, after being asked to leave in the 1992, the United States withdrew its military bases from the Philippines. And then ex-US President Bill Clinton continued his predecessor's view of the Southeast Asia as a peaceful region of the energetic economic growth. However, greater emphasis was placed on the multilateral institution. The United States actively participated in the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum and gave passive support for the ASEAN Regional Forum. So you can see the way United States approach to the Southeast Asia country. They do not directly make direct engagement with each of the Southeast Asia countries, and also they did not start with the security issues. They use economic development and cooperation and trade as a main topic to engage with the Southeast Asia region, because security issue is more sensitive. China will not like it too. So United States started to approach the Southeast Asia region with the economic topic first, economic and trade. And secondly, United States did not engage each Southeast Asia countries on the bilateral basis. They started to make the relation with the Southeast Asia countries through the multilateral institutions that is also in line with their liberal ideology, the way they spread the liberal democracy around the world. They work through the international and the regional institutes that are built on the current liberal current liberal world order, and so on. So firstly, United States participated in the APEC, and then also started to give the passive support to the ARF and so on. That's the first time U.S. started to formally establish relation with the Southeast Asia country and the ASEAN. However, during this time, the Clinton administration only provided episodic attention to the Southeast Asia, as the U.S. was focused on the conflict in the Balkans area and other parts of the world. As we discussed today in the class, there are 3 regions in the world that are important to the United States for economic, for security, and also as a competitor. From the Cold War period, during the World War time, of course, it is Europe. Europe is the most important region for the U.S. to give all their attention, because there is a rising Germany that almost took over all of the European countries. So United States even had to join together to form the alliance with the Soviet Union to fight against the Nazi Germany and so on. But after the World War II, Soviet Union and the United States became the winner of the World War II, and then there is a competition between the United States and the Soviet Union, and competition of their ideologies, political system, whose ideologies is superior to each other, and the competition of nuclear weapons between the United States and the European Union. So during the Cold War time, it is also in the European continent, European part of the world, especially Eastern Europe this time. In the Cold War period, United States' main concern was the Soviet Union, because it is another great power existing in the international system apart from the United States. At that time, Soviet Union is more or less powerful, similar to the United States. So it is a peer competitor. So naturally, United States will give a lot of attention to counterbalance to compete with this another great power in the world system, which is the Soviet Union. And also after the 1990s, so after Soviet Union collapsed, the Russia is not a major threat to the United States anymore, because they already have their own problems with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Russia is a country that need to rebuild their country from somewhat scratch, and also many of the former Soviet states are separating away from the Soviet Union and declaring independence as a sovereign independent countries and so on. Russia has many things to deal for their domestic issues, and to recover, to build their economy, their political system, so on after the Soviet Union collapsed. So after the Cold War period, starting from around 1990 to 1991, Russia and then the ex-Soviet Union is not the major threat to the United States anymore. So United States focus shift to the other parts of the world. As we know, maybe under the George W. Bush time, U.S. main concern and what we see almost every day in the news is the issues about the Middle East, the Middle Eastern country, and the rise of the terrorism, such as the it started with the terrorist Islamic extremist terrorist Taliban group led by the Bin Laden attacked the Twin Tower of the United States, and that's the beginning of a big conflict between the U.S. and the Middle Eastern Islamic countries. And of course, when I say U.S., it includes NATO alliance and all other countries. That's the rule of the NATO alliance. Attacking on the one member of NATO membership or NATO members of the NATO alliance is the attack on all the NATO countries. So attacking the United States by the terrorist group Taliban is also attack on the other countries, other liberal countries that are alliance of the United States and also part of the NATO members, so on. So after this Cold War period finished, United States main focus was on the Middle East to transform, to reform all the Middle Eastern country into the liberal democracy, and they started by removing a strong military dictatorship that existed for quite a long time in this region. After they have removed this Taliban and the Bin Laden, they continue to remove Saddam Hussein and his regime, and then Syria, Gaddafi, and many other terrorist groups. Also, of course. So after the Cold War period, Middle Eastern region has become the main focus of the United States. But from that time on, United States have another agenda. They start to want to focus their attention to the Asia Pacific region. They see that Asia Pacific region as a new kind of the regional power that will become very significant in the future. They know it in advance because there is a large amount of population in the Asia Pacific region, including China, Russia, and all the Southeast Asia countries with abundant resources and large amount of trade flowing in this Asia Pacific region and so on. And also with this amount of the population in Southeast Asia, China, and the India and other Oceania countries, there is so much business to do in this Asia Pacific region, but they just couldn't do it until recently because their hands are full with before it's the Soviet Union and then the Middle East issues and also the Balkan issues, conflict and so on. So after the George W. Bush and the Obama, Middle East country has become somewhat a bit stable, and many of the strong military dictators were removed from there already. And then, starting from the Obama time, the United States focus has started to shift to the Asia Pacific region and so on. So we'll go detail for that. So in 1997, the Asian financial crisis hit the ASEAN hard. The people in Thailand will be more familiar with this topic. Specifically, the countries of Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. The United States did not offer any bilateral economic bailouts to any of the Southeast Asia countries, meaning United States did not come to give any help or assistance, financial assistance package to the Southeast Asia countries. At the November 1997 APEC summit, ex-President Bill Clinton dismissed the Thai and Malaysia currency crisis as just a small few glitches in the road. He just think that's just a small glitch in the road. So throughout the through the IMF, International Monetary Fund, the United States resisted any effort to find an Asian solution to the overall crisis, and some American officials stated that non-democratic governance, lack of the transparency, the so-called the Asian values had caused the problems. So the reason US responded, the reason they didn't come to help for the financial crisis is because the main problem is not with the trade and the economic issues of the Southeast Asia country. These are the regions good for the economic growth, and they have a big market too. The problem exists in the these non-democratic government, non-democratic governance that many of the Southeast Asia states are practicing, starting from the big China, the dictatorship country, authoritarian country, a communist country, and so on. Almost all the Southeast Asia countries are also mostly authoritarian country. Even Singapore is semi-democratic, semi-autocratic country at most. So, and also there is a lack of transparency, the usual thing for the non-democratic governments, and those so-called the Asian values that is based on the consensus decision making and so on, and from a way of the discussion and the meeting, and not using the voting system. These are the main things that cause a problem. So US did not come into help. So instead, United States used the International Monetary Fund to impose heavy economic restructuring demands and impose a one-size-fits-all solution on the region. United States did not give any financial help packages. They could easily do that, but they did not do it. Instead, through the IMF, the International Institute for the Finance, United States solved this Asian financial crisis issue, not directly, but through the International Institute, IMF, to impose the heavy economic restructuring demand to the Southeast Asia country. So many ASEAN countries were dismayed. They were shocked and upset by this. This lack of help from the United States was resented by many ASEAN countries, also the policymakers, government, and even many people, civilian, businessmen. They were very upset with the United States because we look up to the United States, and we have a lot of hope for the United States for our country's development. So the Asian financial crisis has been considered the watershed moment in the ASEAN countries' relation with the US and led to the deeper ASEAN cooperation with China. So ASEAN countries were grateful to China for not devaluing their currency and offering bilateral aid and the loans with no string attached. So one great power did not come to help in times of need, but they say it is the Southeast Asian economic political structure. These are the main issue. As long as Southeast Asia countries do not fix the fundamental political, economic, and the trade system, if they do not do reform in accordance with this market economy, capitalism, this liberal democracy, and so on, if they do not fix the foundation, the fundamental system, then no matter how much they come to help, and every time the ASEAN faces any other financial crisis, it will still be the same, and these kind of things will keep happening. And on the other hand, the military dictatorship system or the authoritarian system, which is opposite of the liberal democracy, will continue to be a strong force in the Asia-Pacific region if they came to help. So United States demanded to make the structural reforms in the Southeast Asia region first, and then US will come to help and so on. So there is another great power that ASEAN countries can look to, a country with the big population, big market, and also with the large amount of the economic power, which is China. So on one hand, many people from the Southeast Asia became upset with United States, and at the same time, they look to the China. China is the big country that gives the actual loans and aid for that period of time with no string attached. So many people, government, were feeling grateful to the China for that period of time. So China's rise during the US decline. While the United States and ASEAN relations were on the downturn, China was being very active in the region, capitalizing on the opening left in the region by the Washington. Southeast Asia countries feel that United States has already abandoned this Southeast Asia region and left with this great power, China. China saw this as an opportunity to replace a role left by the United States. So China was a founding member of the Chiang Initiative and engaged in the multilateral trade deal with the ASEAN, ACFTA, which led to an increase in trade between the both parties. China also acceded to the Treaty of Amity and the Cooperation in the 2003, which was in stark contrast to the United States unilateralism at the time. And we will move on to ASEAN states between the rival powers. The rise of Chinese economic power has also increased the demand for the American-led security system as well. Many countries in the Southeast Asian country are worried about growing China power. Many countries in the Southeast Asia want the economic benefit from the rising China for sure. China has 1.4 billion population. Many of the manufacturing facilities, factories are moving to the China from the European countries, European brands, American brands, auto industry, electronic industry. Many of the Japanese electronic manufacturing factories are moving to China. So it is a big market for the Southeast Asia country to export all kinds of the product, finished product, half finished product, or the parts and the raw material and the agricultural products and so on. So many countries in Southeast Asia definitely want the economic benefit from the rising China, that they can export so much to their neighboring country, China, but also did not want China to completely dominate the region. That is one thing that Southeast Asia countries are worried about. So this led to many countries, Southeast Asia, this led to many ASEAN countries pursuing their strategy of, you have all learned this chapter already, hedging. So they want to maintain trade relation with China, economic and trade relation with China, because China is a rising economic power. Many of the Southeast Asia countries, businessmen, can get many benefits by trading with China, by exporting to China and so on. But they also do not feel safe that China will start to influence many Southeast Asia countries, and they will start to lose their sovereignty for each of the countries. So many ASEAN countries start to pursue the strategy of the hedging. ASEAN countries are very comfortable with this dual hierarchy architecture in the Asia-Pacific region. It is ideal for the ASEAN. This is because the region with two hegemonic states that are competing for the political support and the cooperation gives weaker and the secondary states more options. In the Southeast Asia, Asia-Pacific region, US and China are trying to compete for their political influence, economic influence, also to get the political support from the government and the people of the Southeast Asia region. That gives them many opportunity for the smaller micro power country in the Asia-Pacific region. This leaves the ASEAN states more space for maneuvering and the bargaining. This also pressures the US and China to give the better terms and deals to ASEAN states. So ASEAN the competition between US and China give many trouble and the pressure to the Southeast Asia country, many difficult choices. It is not only negative effect, there are also positive effects that come from their competition. Due to their competition together, alliance and the favor of the Southeast Asia country, trust from the people of the Southeast Asia country and their support. US and China will try to compete in this region and by giving the better terms and the deal to the Southeast Asia country, and the businesses, government, the people can get benefit from that. So most countries in the Southeast Asia, ASEAN are also very comfortable with the exact shape of the dual hierarchy. Since the United States is a power that is more distant from the region, countries are more comfortable with the US being the primary security partner. Every country in the Southeast Asia, starting from the Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, I would say even Myanmar. Of course, Myanmar means civilian of Myanmar, and of course other countries too. They want to establish security relation with United States. That is for sure. Countries are more comfortable with the US being their primary security partner. Since China is closer to the region, our neighboring country with a big population and the country with the largest number of the manufacturing factories of the products in the world. So it is preferred as an economic and a trading partner for the ASEAN countries. So next question, why ASEAN states continue to hedge? Why ASEAN countries still continue to use this hedging strategy? The Chinese threat might be growing for some countries, but it is not yet imminent. But it is becoming more and more clear in recent years, especially in the South China Sea region, South China Sea conflict. China is the principal source of the economic opportunities to all in the region, especially in the area of trade and investment. That's the second point. Number three, siding with another power creates its own set of the problem. Example, the risk of the antagonism. As we discuss very often in the classroom, siding with United States will anger the China, and China will give the punishment. Getting too close to the China, adapting to the Chinese way of doing things will anger other liberal democracy country, especially the United States, and then sanctions and punishment from the US and its alliance country will come. So ASEAN countries cannot really risk that. So these are the three reasons that ASEAN countries still continue to practice this hedging strategy. One, China is not really the threat yet for the ASEAN country. Another, China has abundant economic opportunity, that choosing the site in this kind of situation will only create more trouble. That by making one of the great power to get angry and get the economic sanction and the punishment. So hedging is the strategic behavior that works for the best and that prepares for the worst. China's overcharge into the region, and over the past few years, China has been working to further strengthen its relation with ASEAN countries. One of the China's key initiatives is the famous Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which is an infrastructure investment initiative aimed at connecting emerging markets in the Central Asia and the Southeast Asia, a very big region. They will cover a very big region for the infrastructure project. Through this initiative, China has provided financing to the ASEAN countries so that they can fund much needed infrastructure projects in their own countries. China's BRI initiative has served to provide a new engine for the China's economy. China has also been able to secure more raw materials and the strategic resources in the initiative. Weaker ASEAN countries such as Laos and Cambodia have become more friendly than other countries towards China, and the Chinese economic influence in these countries has grown so much more than any other countries. So another key initiative was the ASEAN-China Free Trade Area, ACFTA, which increased the trade interdependence between the ASEAN and China. And there is RCEP, which is supposed, if successfully implemented, which is supposed to become one of the largest trade agreement platform in the whole world. Although RCEP, although nominally as an ASEAN-led initiative, is also another initiative that China has embarked on with the ASEAN. This RCEP was initiated by and led by the ASEAN country. It seems like that, but the real architecture initiator behind this RCEP is China. So RCEP theoretically, technically is a project initiated by China through the ASEAN. So RCEP's primary goal is to multilateralize the regional trade system by combining the 5 ASEAN plus free trade agreements into the single agreement. That is Korea, Japan, China, India, Australia, New Zealand, all are the wealthy advanced economies, especially Korea, Japan, Australia, middle power countries. In November 2019, India withdrew from the RCEP negotiations due to their own concerns. Without India, the 15 negotiating parties accounted for 30% of the world's population. That is over 1/4 of the world population, just under 30% of the world's GDP too. So over 1/4 of the whole world population, and over 1/4 of the whole world's GDP will include in this RCEP agreement trade platform. That is very big. RCEP will not only further integrate China with ASEAN, but will also further integrate China's economy with the non-ASEAN RCEP partners as well. China make it through the ASEAN. So China is behind, they initiated this program, but ASEAN is seen as a newly developing economic growth engine in the Southeast Asia, very attractive region with good strategic location with abundant natural resources, bordering very close to the two of the largest population country in the world. In the east, northeast to the China, in the west to the India, so on. So it is a very attractive region for trade and economic and investment for many companies and government around from around the world in their view. So RCEP will not only further integrate China into ASEAN, will also further integrate China's economy with the non-ASEAN RCEP partners as well. There are countries who may not really like to do close trade or economic relation with China, but there are some countries who are willing to help and also who are willing to trade with the rising economic developing countries such in the ASEAN countries. So those who have the good relation with the ASEAN country will somehow automatically become trading partner with the China if they join this RCEP partnership. However, it is important to keep in mind that BRI has been on a bilateral basis between China and the ASEAN member states. It is supposed to be the multilateral initiative, but BRI, even though it is a big project, China has been doing on the bilateral basis. China has also been able to secure more raw materials and the strategic resources in the initiative. Many of the Southeast Asia countries, we have to sell significant amount of their natural resources depending on the region in the name of supporting this BRI project. So weaker ASEAN countries such as Laos and Cambodia have become more friendly toward China, and the Chinese economic influence in these countries has grown too. However, other countries in the region have limited their participation in BRI over the debt concern. Of course, every country have their own economic experts, trade experts, those businessmen who have the experience doing business with the Chinese companies and the government. And nowadays, many countries also are always part of the International Institute, Regional Institute, ASEAN, IMF, WTO. They can always discuss and ask for the expert advice. And there are many business consulting fund, investment consulting fund that they can hire and they can discuss whether this project is profitable or bankable or not, and so on. So BRI is too big and too unrealistic in the view of many of the Southeast Asia countries. So they are very reluctant over that. And then the interest rate of the financial aid, the financial support and loan that China gave for implementing this BRI project, if we look closely, it is not low interest loan. Their interest is also quite high. So ASEAN countries are concerned about the debt issue with this BRI project. They want to look the example on the other countries, what happened. And we all know Sri Lanka is the first country that came out clearly what happened to the micropower country that tried to implement a BRI project by borrowing money from the China. In the end, they could not pay back. The whole country had to declare bankruptcy, and it is still going on. And in return, Sri Lanka had to hand over some of their very valuable strategic location, such as a deep sea port and some other strategic area and the resources to the China, so that China will overtake these projects and they will run this deep sea port. They even say for over 100 years. So that will even make the Southeast Asia countries more worried and concerned about this BRI project's true intention. So, and also we have to study the recent US initiative. Now we have been talking about China's initiative in the Southeast Asia region to influence the ASEAN. How about the United States? The United States has also been dedicating more resources and attention towards Southeast Asia and the ASEAN. This renewed dedication started under the Obama administration in the 2011 with the pivot or rebalance to the Asia. By that time, they have already removed United States under the George W. Bush. They have removed many of the terrorist organization in the Middle East, at least suppress them, remove them, and also remove many of the terrorist leaders, and also even remove the military dictator regime that are supporting the terrorists, such as the Saddam Hussein and the Gaddafi or the Syria. And United States has been staying there for like a decade in the Middle Eastern region to reform the many of the Middle East country into the liberal democracy country. So United States doesn't concern that much about the Middle East anymore, like before at the time of the September 11. Under the Obama time, the United States started to shift their focus a lot on the Asia Pacific region due to the rising power of China, that they see China as a great power threat to the US hegemonic power in the world. Because China is not the liberal democracy country, they are similar to Soviet Union. They believe in they believe in a totally different kind of the political ideology, which is the communism, opposite of the democracy. And they prefer autocracy over the democracy too, so on. So United States, after they have done with the after they have dealt with the issues in the Eastern Europe and then to the Middle East, now they can focus to the Asia region. The aim of the US rebalance was to shift America's economic, political, and military resources to the Asia Pacific region with a special focus on the Southeast Asia. They may say in the broader scope, it is Asia Pacific. Of course, in the Asia Pacific, US has many alliances that they need to protect too, such as South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Australia, and New Zealand, and so on. But main focus is Southeast Asia because it is the bordering closest region to their peer competitor, the China. The Obama administration made ASEAN a key part of the pivot and sought to increase US commitment to the ASEAN organization and to the ASEAN member state. It started around 2010 under the Obama administration, but it is not the new plan that just started in the 2011. US already has the kind of strategy and intention for the Asia Pacific region. They just had other priority in the other region, such as in the Europe, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East, and so on. After they have dealt with these issues, and these regions became relatively somewhat stable, then they start to shift to the Southeast Asia. It has very much to do with rising China threat. So under the Obama administration, the United States took a much more multilateral approach with the ASEAN, actively taking part in the ARF and signing the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in the 2009. The United States also assigned a dedicated mission to the organization in 2010, with its first ambassador to the ASEAN being appointed in the 2011. They even started to appoint ambassador to ASEAN, meaning United States support and the start to formally recognize ASEAN as a really good institute for the ASEAN region, that the kind of organization that has a lot of the potential to become a good institute that are in line with the United States interests. The United States also joined the East Asia Summit in the 2010, since the United States was acceded to the TAC and it was able to join the East Asia Summit EAS. And then there is TPP or CPTPP was another example of Obama's multilateral approach. Obama also attended the ASEAN Summit in Laos in 2016 and became the first American president to ever visit the Laos. In February 2016, President Obama hosted the Southeast Asian leaders as well as the ASEAN Secretary General for a 2-day special summit at the historic Sunnyland Center in the California. This summit was the first time a standalone meeting between the United States and the leaders of the Southeast Asia had been organized in the United States country. A joint statement was released at the end of the summit, which declared the shared principle for respect for general norms such as freedom of navigation and sustainable and inclusive economic development. A joint statement declared by ASEAN country leaders and the United States that show that United States interest has already shifted and focused a lot on the Southeast Asia region, and they start to make closer engagement with the ASEAN by making back and forth visit, U.S. high level visiting ASEAN countries, and the ASEAN leaders invited to the United States and have the formal meeting and so on. So one of Obama's key initiatives during the pivot was the founding of the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative and the Lower Mekong Initiative, which is aimed at sharing knowledge and technology with the Lower Mekong countries. The President Obama himself also had a personal connection to the ASEAN. He spent several years of his childhood living in Indonesia. This helped him diplomatically interact with the ASEAN leaders. So he has a past personal relation with the ASEAN countries. In the security field, the United States deepened its security commitments to the Southeast Asia through arms sales, new security partnership. On the economic front, Obama promoted the TPP, but ultimately this was unsuccessful so far. So now we will move on to learn about the pivot and the U.S.-China relation. The pivot also address U.S.-China relationship. The Obama administration advanced cooperation with China on the non-traditional security issues, such as the counterterrorism and the combating climate change. So when United States started their pivot to the Asia Pacific, their main focus is, of course, in the Southeast Asia, but their main concern was the rising China threat. China has been accusing quite a long time already that many of the initiatives that United States have been doing in the Asia Pacific region is to contain China influence, so on. So in their strategy, they also have a plan to make the relation with China, such as the advanced cooperation with China on the non-traditional security terms, such as counterterrorism, about the climate, and so on. Not that serious issues, and the kind of issues that everyone, both China and US, are likely to agree on: counterterrorism, climate issue, the topic that both countries share interest that is not related to the security issues about like South China Sea. So since as long as both countries have the common shared interest on this specific topic, like counterterrorism, climate change, they can make some cooperation and engagement. The administration was successful in lobbying China to join the Paris Climate Accord in the 2015. That was a good achievement. However, many government officials in China perceive that rebalance as a way to contain China's rise. Whatever US is doing is to contain the rise in China, and it is to limit the China's expanding influence to other regions. Many government officials in China see it that way. So in addition, China's increasingly aggressive actions in the South China Sea led to a rise in the tension between the China and the United States. On one hand, they have the engagement in some other issue, cooperation in some other topics, and also they have many tension and disputes and conflict in the many other areas, like in the trade and economic issues, South China Sea dispute, and so on. The free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. So in 2017, President Donald Trump administration announced a free and open Indo-Pacific strategy called FOIP. This strategy took on much more aggressive language in regards to the China. You are all quite familiar with the Donald Trump. So the current U.S. national defense strategy emphasizes on the importance of great power competition with China as a key pillar of the U.S. defense strategy. So United States, in terms of national security, and also, of course, about the security order of the whole world, U.S. see China as a peer competitor. U.S. see China as a bigger threat than any other region, any other countries around the world, compared to even to the Middle East and Russia. China has becoming a bigger economic power that can rival somewhat even to the US. So US also see China as a rising peer competitor and the threat for them, even more than Russia. Between the three great power we have in this world, between United States, Russia, and China, of course, the most powerful country is United States. Second is China, and Russia is just the third most powerful country in the world. So FOIP calls for freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, which directly clashes with the Chinese South China Sea territorial claims and Beijing's desire for greater control over its strategic waterways. China want to make many rules and regulations, and they want their influence to be strong in the region. China will be the one to make rules and regulations and to claim many territory as they are Chinese territory in the South China Sea. This South China Sea area is a strategically important place for the trading and the shipping for the trade among the countries. So it's no wonder they want to take great control of these area. But too much control will make the trade of the other countries become more difficult. They have to, no matter what, deal with the China and follow the rules and regulations made by China. So it is like disruption to the free trade policy, free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. It is becoming opposite of U.S. strategy. So the Trump administration is specifically concerned with the Beijing's economic diplomacy, namely the latest policy combination of inducements and the coercion of to shape the foreign policy behavior of the particular regional stakeholders. Another motivation for the Indo-Pacific strategy is America's recognition of Asia as an important to its economy. The Trump administration perceives the Indo-Pacific as a zone where America's economic future is. They even say like that. America's economic, trade, investment future is not in the West, not in the Europe, not in the Middle East. It is in the Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific will be the most important region for the United States and also in the whole world. This area is the Asia Pacific region has the highest potential to become the engine for economic development for the whole world and also for the region and also for the United States. So the Trump administration perceives the Indo-Pacific as a zone where America's economic future is similar to the Obama administration, although Trump would deny this, he would deny that. But notably, this new American policy situates Southeast Asia in the middle or at the heart of the Indo-Pacific region and affirms the idea of Central Asia, ASEAN centrality. Many of these economic, political, security issues, whatever it is in the Southeast Asia region, American interest, European interest, the China interest, and the ASEAN country interest, whatever it is in the Southeast Asia Pacific region, this ASEAN, Southeast Asia will become the central place for all these events in the Asia Pacific region. So ASEAN will become a very important institute for the Asia Pacific region. In the field of the security, on the security front, United States has stepped up its freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. In 2019, the United States conducted a height of the 9th freedom of navigation operation in the South China Sea, up just from the 2 in the 2015. However, the Trump administration has not been supportive of the multilateralism as the Obama administration had been. Donald Trump withdrew from the TPP almost immediately after entering the office and stated that he prefers bilateral trade agreements with the other Southeast Asia countries. So CPTPP was initiated by United States. Many countries had high hope for the CPTPP, but after the Obama time, when Donald Trump became the president, the initiator country, United States, withdrew from this CPTPP. So TPP is still the very large trade agreement platform with including many of the advanced economies around the world, but just lacking United States. In addition, Donald Trump did not appoint a U.S. ambassador to the ASEAN and only had an interim charge affairs in place. So we saw that under the Obama time, United States of America appointed a former ambassador of US to the ASEAN. But now, under the Donald Trump time, he made many changes. He did not appoint the former US ambassador. It's one step lower than the ambassador, just an interim charge d'affaires officer in place. So in addition, after 2017, Donald Trump did not attend 3 ASEAN summit meetings and instead sent his national security advisor. And this has then led to convince ASEAN that the United States is fully committed to the region. So we can see in each of the under each different U.S. presidents, many of the policy and the strategy changes happen. Some of the president prefer multilateral way of the engaging with ASEAN countries, like Donald Trump. They prefer bilateral basis, and so on. Now Joe Biden, he prefer a multilateral approach again, and so on. So U.S.-China relations under the Indo-Pacific strategy, unlike under the Obama administration, the Donald Trump administration has been much more provocative in its rhetoric towards China. Since coming into the president office, Donald Trump has angered China through a series of public remarks. And in fact, before coming into the office, Donald Trump accepted a phone call from the president of Taiwan. This was a very provocative action, and of course, China was very angry. In fact, the U.S. national security strategy explicitly stated that China as a strategic rival of the United States that the U.S. needs to compete with. The Trump administration also engaged in the trade disputes with the China, culminating in the trade war in which the United States put tariff on the Chinese manufactured goods. The United States also labeled China as a currency manipulator, although this was later retracted just prior to the Phase 1 trade deal. These actions have led to increased tension with China, and currently, U.S. and China relations are severely strained, and their trade war still continue on. No side is backing down for the negotiation to reduce a tariff on each other. The United States under Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, we also need to study that. U.S.-China relations have continued to be poor under the President Biden administration too. In March 2021, the United States and China held talks in the Alaska, during which they exchanged the heated criticism of each other. In regard to approach to the China, Biden has mostly kept the Indo-Pacific strategy intact, but has emphasized working with the allies in the region. Trump's approach was more unilateral and the bilateral. Biden started to practice a multilateral approach again with the allies of the United States in the Indo-Pacific region. This can be demonstrated by Biden's completion of the AUKUS Pact. AUKUS, Australia, United Kingdom, US, three country alliance between the Australia, UK, and the US that also calls for the US to sell nuclear power submarines to the Australia. In the AUKUS Pact, they did not mention that clear that AUKUS is formed for what kind of purpose. They say it is for some security or economic cooperation or the the trade and the freedom of navigation and so on. Not that clear, but of course, many experts and also China is very suspicious that AUKUS is formed to for the security purposes. It is like the security alliance between Australia, UK, and US. So President Biden attended the US ASEAN summit meeting in the October 2021, the first time a US president has attended since the 2017, and pledged to upgrade US economic engagement with the ASEAN. He also promoted the US Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, but it does not include a trade deal. ASEAN's reaction to the AUKUS was mixed. The Philippines and Singapore were in favor for it. Indonesia and Malaysia had concerns, and most of the ASEAN countries did not give comment. It is too far for them to concern. China's aggressive actions in the South China Sea and the wolf warrior diplomacy have made most of the ASEAN countries want continue US engagement in the region. So ASEAN countries, even though they enjoy trading with China because China is a big country for export from the ASEAN countries, but due to the China's aggressive action, even though China keeps saying they are not the threat to any of the Southeast Asia country, China rights will be peaceful, and China is a friendly, good neighbor country to the ASEAN countries. That's what they say. They also practice the wolf warrior diplomacy, aggressive way of the diplomacy way in the foreign policy, foreign affairs department. They have made most of the ASEAN countries worry about that, and when ASEAN countries want continue engagement with the US in the region. So what do you think these new initiatives from the China and the United States will do for the ASEAN? And do you think Donald Trump's idea of the confronting China was a good idea? That's a question to think through. And then now we have looked some of the China's perspective and their motive and their initiative to influence the Indo-Pacific region. And also we have learned some of the United States initiative, their plans, their strategy to influence the Indo-Pacific region, and some of the initiatives that they took, such as the FOIP and also the forming alliance of the AUKUS and so on. Now we will also have to study about the ASEAN side. How about ASEAN from their perspective? ASEAN between the great power countries. ASEAN has been focusing on fostering correlation with both of these major power countries, but also on correlation between the United States and also China. ASEAN's central role in the regional initiative have also worked as a pull factors to attract the US and the China. Some competition between the great powers in the region is good for the ASEAN. We saw earlier in the this chapter. This enables ASEAN to have the more bargaining power. ASEAN has also formed a strategic partnership with the China and the United States, mostly with China on economic front and United States on the security front. ASEAN has also formed a strategic partnership with other powers in the region, such as European Union, Russia, Japan, India, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, so on. The European Union and ASEAN have begun discussing the possibility of a EU-ASEAN free trade agreement. If that is successful, then it is a good news, very good news for the ASEAN. ASEAN, we have more option and choice. ASEAN situation is like they have to balance and use a hedging strategy, and all the time constantly have to be concerned about great power intention and their reaction for the initiative that ASEAN take. They have to be careful between the China and the US and their interest in the region and their changing policy. But now, if ASEAN could really establish a significant trade agreement, economic cooperation with the European Union, that is a new option for the ASEAN. European countries, each of the European countries is a wealthy advanced country. Combination of over 20 European countries is a big market that ASEAN can learn many of the technological knowledge, know-how, and also sharing of the technology if they have a good time, so on. Europe is also wealthy market. ASEAN can export many things, and European countries can come to invest in the natural resource-rich Southeast Asia country, like in Thailand, like in Vietnam, so on. So that would be the new option, very good for ASEAN. So ASEAN don't need to care only about this China or US sided with US or China only thing. They can just go to trade with these over 20 countries of the European Union. That would be great for ASEAN. So these are part of the ASEAN's effort to intensify its engagement with external powers to strengthen its role in the regional mechanism and ensure that no nation can establish hegemony in the region. So ASEAN engagement with the European Union and many other external power, as we mentioned here, the EU, Japan, India, South Korea, Australia. These are ways for the ASEAN to make sure that ASEAN we have more options. No country can come to limit and the influence to the ASEAN country with very little option except to follow the command or the instruction or demand of one great power countries. ASEAN have tried to trade with European country and also United States, United Kingdom, and also other wealthy country in the Asia Pacific region, like the Hong Kong, Taiwan, like the Taiwan, Japan, and the Australia, or the New Zealand, and the Singapore, and so on. So these are all part of ASEAN's effort to intensify its engagement with the external powers apart from US and China to strengthen its role in the regional mechanism and ensure that no one nation can come to establish hegemony in the Southeast Asia ASEAN region, so that they have to make sure that they have many other alliances to trading partner, security partner, apart from the United States and China. They have the friendly relations. They have established friendly relation with the European countries. And they are trying, and also in the Oceania zone. So they have more option no country can really come to limit their scope and can come pressure. ASEAN has gained many benefits from these strategic partnerships. One such example is that the European Union has been most generous in providing development and the capacity building assistance to the ASEAN. Australia and the New Zealand also work with the ASEAN in traditional and the non-traditional security areas, including defense and the security, disaster risk management, connectivity, and the maritime cooperation, and so on. So we are talking about the initiative that the United States have taken, the initiative that China has taken, and some of their intention to influence Asia Pacific region, and also from the perspective of the Southeast Asia country, their strategy to balance between the great power and also finding new ways, new opportunities by establishing relation with the European country and other external power, so that ASEAN will not have to rely only on the China or the Russia. They will have many other options. They also have been trying many new strategies, options, and the way for trade, economic, and security, and so on. But there are also we also need to study about potential problems for the ASEAN. So each country have their own motive, their own strategy, and their own interest in the Indo-Pacific region, and also the other countries in the other countries also have similar things happening, their own initiative, their own interest, what do they want, what do they need, and their own strategy. So, however, ASEAN is not able to control the great power rivalry between the United States and China. There is no way ASEAN can have a small amount of influence through its multilateral forums, but the nature of the US-China relationship is primarily bilateral. No country in the world will be able to stop this kind of the trade war between the US and China, at least so far. Even United Nations cannot really intervene to solve this issue. So it is bilateral in nature. It is the conflict between US and China, two greatest power country in the world so far. This means that ASEAN has a limited capacity to control the tension between the United States and China to a certain extent. This can cause potential security and the economic problems for the ASEAN in the near future. ASEAN has not been able to ring in either China or the United States unilateral actions in the region. One notable recent example of this was the US-China trade war. Despite ASEAN's protests, the US and China engaged in the trade war and were negatively affected by the shocks of this dispute of the US and China trade war. ASEAN was unable to prevent the trade war through its influence and was both positively and then negatively affected by this dispute. Despite ASEAN as an organization remaining neutral, some ASEAN member states side slightly more with the either of the United States or the China. Cambodia, Laos, on one side, they are pro-China, more of a pro-China countries. And Vietnam, Singapore, on the other hand, on the other side, they are more like the pro-US country. So there is also divide in the ASEAN. If tensions between the great power countries continue to grow, then it can cause these countries to drift further apart from each other and further undermining the unity in the ASEAN. If the tension between United States and China become more serious than right now, today, then countries in the ASEAN also will have to choose one of the either side of these two great powers. And when they choose a side, it will not just be a slightly different policy, it will be opposing policy that they have to follow. So within the ASEAN, there will be countries who follow Chinese policy. There are those who have to follow the US policy that are contradictory and conflicting in nature, and that can undermine the unity of the ASEAN. That is a big headache for the ASEAN countries. So this in turn can undermine ASEAN's central position within the regional architecture and ASEAN's position between the great power countries. ASEAN, for the best goal, they want to remain this ASEAN centrality approach for the political, economic, security, society concern, and the policy making decision remain in the ASEAN only. So also if open hostilities were to break out between the United States and China, Southeast Asia could become the battlefield because some ASEAN states would need to choose a side. This potential scenario would not just mean a battlefield between the United States and China, but potentially between the states in the ASEAN. Luckily, there are no indications that it is likely to happen anytime soon. US and China may be having conflict, they may be having trade war with each other, but we do not really see the sign that China and US are going to engage in the direct war conflict with each other. Even in the Eastern Europe, war between the Ukraine and the Russia, United States is heavily involved, but United States does not directly involved in the war. They just supply weapons and the technical assistance, whatever it is, to the Ukraine army, and so on. The same for the Israel. U.S. sent some of their warships, aircraft carrier, support the military weapons and the many and resources for Israel to be able to defend themselves and so on. But they do not directly fight with these countries. The same for China and the United States. It is unlikely that these two great power countries will directly have a war with each other. Two big countries having direct war with each other means it is a nuclear war. So we do not, it is unlikely to happen. We do not really see it happen yet so far in the modern history. So some question to consider is, how do you think President Biden will affect the ASEAN situation in regards to the great powers? And in regards to the United States and China, does ASEAN really need to have to choose a side between China, between the US? These are some questions to think. So we reach to the summary conclusion part. This part will summarize all the main points in the this chapter. Power dynamics in the Southeast Asia region are changing, with China on the rise and the United States declining economic influence in the region, especially since the aftermath of the 1997 Asian financial crisis. The United States did not come to help. Instead, U.S. demanded through the IMF that Southeast Asia countries have to change their fundamental political and economic structures that are in line with this current liberal uh, uh, international system, and also this free market system. They need to have a lot of reform. Otherwise, such kind of problem will keep happening again and again. And United States will not really go to give the help to the authoritarian country, communist-like authoritarian country in the Southeast Asia, because they see it as a bad system, not good for civilian. It benefits only to the minority of the powerful people in the country. So if they do not, ASEAN country cannot fix, cannot reform, the US will not really give their significant economic, technological, and the other expert assistance to the Southeast Asia country. And also Asia financial crisis is not caused by the economic or the trade issue. It is mainly because of the flawed nature of the non-democratic governments and the so-called the ASEAN way, which is not really their rules-based system. It is a consensus-based system, which is opposite of the United Nations practices and also the Western countries practices and so on. So this so-called Asian way, Asian value, ASEAN way, also we have to change or adapt. After this, China became the preferred economic partner of the ASEAN country. Regardless, China came in to give the help. So suddenly, many people in Southeast Asia, businessmen, and also the government people, some people start to see China as a neighboring good country that come to help in times of need. So ASEAN countries start to shift their attention to China and try to establish closer economic relation with China. However, the United States is still the preeminent security power in the region, as the U.S. Navy is still playing an active role in the Asia-Pacific region. This dual hierarchy structure is ideal for the ASEAN in its present form and under current condition, because China is the better economic power than the United States due to geographical closeness, and most of the manufacturing factories, even from the United States, UK, European, Japan, most of the, almost all of the alliance countries of the United States, which are liberal democracy country and wealthy country, most of their manufacturing bases are built in the China for manufacturing products and goods. So due to the geographical closeness between the ASEAN and China, China is the better economic partner for trade and export for sure. And the United States is a more trusted security partner according to the history. Both the United States and the China have increased their competition for influence in the Southeast Asia region. The United States, through the rebalance to the Asia and the free and open navigation, FOIP, China through the BRI. ASEAN has also established a strategic partnership with other powers such as the Japan, the European Union, to help ensure no country becomes dominant in the region, and also not to over rely on the China or the US, or only having to rely on these two countries. ASEAN is also trying to make new establish new relationship with other middle to top power, top economic power countries like Japan, so on. ASEAN so far has been able to survive the rivalry between the United States and the China, but the problems within the ASEAN could be worsened if the rivalry between the US and the China intensifies. ASEAN needs to develop a clearer strategic vision and proactive approach for managing great powers in the long term. Whatever ASEAN has been doing is short-term to medium-term approaches. They develop different strategies and approach, find new ways depending on the geopolitical changes and the shift that happen among the great power countries in the region. But ASEAN need to have a clear strategic vision for themselves, proactive approach for managing great power countries for the long term. They cannot just keep using the short-term strategy that work for the short period of time as a miracle. It may not happen all the time. They need a long-term sustainable approach to manage how to survive, how to interact with the great power countries in the long term. So that is all for our week 10 chapter ASEAN between the great power countries. So next week we will continue from the second part of the ASEAN consensus and ASEAN in the Southeast Asia region. Okay, thank you for listening. If you have any question, suggestions, or comment, you can ask me by email or you can post it on the Google Classroom. You can also send me message in the Google Classroom. Okay, have a nice day. Bye-bye.